permissible medically or legally. And that's what's happening to India, because in India we have a whole lot of illiterate people who don't know what's happening to them, and they want connectivity at a cheap price, and therefore opportunist companies that come from abroad say that this is a sitting duck country, let's put this and save our money and give everyone good reception, who knows the better. And that's where we need to spread this education. That's the reason why we have these seminars. So the solution is that every building should have one small antenna and have at very soft power, so that the vicinity would get radiation at a very acceptable level and get reception. That would be the solution, but that would cost a huge amount to those cell phone operating companies. And then it would reflect on our bills, because our telephones will be from where they recover that money. And that may not be acceptable to us. But we have to look at the deeper end of the story and therefore make it acceptable to us. There has to be some solution to it. Then there are some legal issues, like if it's a residential area, the cell phone has to be at the highest point in that area and not at the lowest point. But most of the cash-strapped buildings in Bombay are the smallest ones. And those buildings are the ones who want to ease their outgoings, and so they give permission for towers to be installed on their roof, and their roof is right next to the fifth floor of the next skyscraper next to their building, which is just 20 meters away, and this radiation shines straight into that house. Exact example of Vijay Apartments to Usha Kiran. Vijay Apartments is an old building. They put up 2 towers, and it shone straight into the 10th, 11th and 12th floor, or 8th, 9th and 10th floor of Usha Kiran. And on every floor, all the floors, there's one case of malignancy, which is strongly associated with this continuous radiation. And today when you raise your head and look, you will find so many short buildings all having these towers, because it eases their outgoings and putting to hazard all the buildings around them. There was a time when I used to look down and walk, drive, look straight and walk, but now when I sit in the car, I look up and I look up and I look at all the buildings with cell phone towers, and then I suddenly realize the magnitude of the problem. And Bombay South is waking up, but the suburbs are still asleep. And when you go to Sion, you will see the buildings have so many towers and so many antennae, these antennae which are radiating in all directions. And regardless whether they are right next to another building or whether they are on the shortest building of that vicinity. And that's why in yesterday's newspaper there was an article which said that there are some about 4,000 towers in Bombay, of which 3,000 are illegal. So we need to look into that aspect. And there's a lot I can tell you about cell phone and tower hazards, but I think I have already told you the essence of it. I've told you what really impacts our lives. There is a goodness behind this instrument. At the same time, there's a hazard that lurks behind its very attractive exterior, and therefore we must be aware of both. And it's important for us to inform our children this. The reason is that cell phone radiation, which an adult uses, does not affect his brain so much as it can affect a child less than 12 years of age. The reason is that the skull bones, they take 12 years to ossify, and they get fully ossified. Ossification means the deposition of calcium and the conversion of cardboard to a cement sheet. This bone, when you're born, is like a cardboard, and when you become an adult, it's like a cement sheet, and that cement sheet blocks the radiation to a great extent, and therefore your brain doesn't receive as much except through the eardrum. But when a fond mother, staying far from the father, goes to her child and says, listen to Papa's voice better, and you put it on the child, inadvertently you are cooking the child's brain, because that child gets the radiation through that little wafer thin bone, and the brain gets immediately affected. There was a cell phone ad where a pregnant woman put it on her abdomen and says, listen to your child kicking. But that got banned, I think, because then they realized that this is wrong. So that's one aspect about telling children not to use cell phones. It's not like seeing adult movies or something, where we say children mustn't see adult movies. Children say, I am fully capable of using the phone, why am I not allowed to use it? The reason is that they are not physically strong enough to accept that radiation hazard as grown-ups are. And therefore, it's very important to remember that children should not be using the phone unless it's an emergency, and therefore we can save them the ill effects of radiation which may tell when they are grown-ups. That's about one thing. Yes, I think I have covered the gamut. Some more things will come up in question answers. There are some of these points which don't come to me instantly, but I have covered the gamut of points I wanted to highlight upon. I think the important thing is that we leave from here today with a clear concept that we have an instrument that is useful, but it has to be rate limited. It has to be used very intelligently and not somewhere. Yes, I was remembering this point. There is an advertisement by one cell phone company which says walk and talk. Don't stand and talk. Walk and talk. But when you walk, your cell phone instantly starts to hunt for which cell phone tower is closest to me. So it keeps telling in figurative terms, it keeps telling every tower, here I am, here I am, here I am, and every tower is trying to look for it. And therefore, the radiation increases tremendously in order to find the nearest tower, and that's how you get uninterrupted reception as you walk anywhere. But the towers are changing, and that uninterrupted radiation is affecting you much more than if you stand rooted to one place and get exactly one tower giving you continuous reception. And therefore, it becomes very dangerous to use a cell phone in a fast-moving vehicle. Because of fast-moving vehicles, the cell phone is discharging huge amounts of radiation, trying to catch whichever radiation is coming to it at the shortest distance. So if you're in a train or if you're in a fast-moving car, it's not a wise thing to use the telephone, because that's where you get the maximum radiation. So, like this, there are so many more applications which we will discover. I'm sure Professor and Neha will give you more insights into this. I'd like to end here before I start overstepping my welcome. Thanks very much for listening so patiently. I could see the feedback.